Hey, old man. Give me everything.
Call an ambulance! Call an ambulance! But not for me!
The Chieftain family is a group of 3 British Rank 6 heavy tanks, and 1 Zork mounted on its hull, ranging from BR8 to 9.0, and all of them are dismissed by idiots who don't know how to play them properly. The Chieftain began life as the FV4-202, and following its apparent success, the War Office got a hard-on for a tank that could actually deal with the IS-4. Late developments with Israel partially led to the murk of the series, and the Chiefy boy found a home in the Middle East with many Arab nations and Iran before their significant emotional event, as well as in the British Army, where it was finally replaced in 1995 by the Challenger. Unfortunately, it was built by fucking Leyland, who literally anyone over the age of 40 knows as the ones who built crap cars, and got bailed out for decades. And this quality British workmanship translated over to the Chieftain with its infamous engine reliability, or rather lack thereof. Today I will discuss mostly the Chieftain Mark III and 10s and the Marksman when necessary, as the Mark V can go suck its higher BR4 slightly more engine powered dick. The Chieftains are powered by a Leyland L60 engine with a maximum power of around 750 horsepower in the later variants, and just like real life, its multi-fuel capabilities are fucking useless. Fortunately, while it doesn't have the 90% breakdown rate, it does have the crap power to weight ratio. So much like the British rail network, it takes a fucking while to get anywhere. Fortunately, as you are a stately gentleman, you don't need to be some yobbo like tankers. You were not built for this, and anyone trying to play you like a leopard should be sent to the Tower of London. Like many NATO tanks, it was built to sit behind hills and raid hordes of Soviet tanks before they could raid civilians, and this will be discussed later. But first we need to discuss the armor. On paper it's crap, with around 70 to 110mm on the hull, and 130 on the turret, but this doesn't tell the full story. The Brits found their smallest and laziest driver asleep, and made him recline in the tank, meaning that the hull could be much lower and the armor angle, meaning your upper plate has an effective 250mm and the turret has around the same, with tougher spots as angles increase. Furthermore, in the true tea drinking spirit, the Mark 10 has the Steel Brew composite pack in the turret, meaning you have over 430mm of protection for your crew of bad mantings. Unfortunately, your armor is by no means perfect, as you have a big juicy lower plate that can be penned by most things and a gun mantlet that is quite weak like later MBTs, so keep this in mind, but also that it's much harder to hit these weak spots at range. Speaking of range, what's the weaponry like? The Chieftains use the same L11A5 rifled cannon used on the Challenger 1 and the Vickers Mark 7, and as such this is a definitively good gun. This gun hits harder than industrial reforms hit the North, and fires 2 rounds actually worth using. For the Mark III, this is a stock L15A3 discarding sabot shell with 300mm of pen at 1 km, and for the Mark 10 this is the familiar L23A1 APFSDS round, which literally scored the longest tank kill in history when mounted on a Challenger. Both these rounds are good, although the APDS prefers to cuddle ammo racks rather than actually blowing them up, so it might need encouragement at times. The Marksman meanwhile has 2 Oldecon 35mm autocannons with choices for either explosive Christmas puddings or Chipotle sausages with 127mm of pen for anti-tank ops. Although since you are so goddamn obese, you are not a falcon, and must not primarily go after tanks. With all that said, how do you play the most inbred family since the Royals? To start, load 22-30 rounds of the best sausage available and once again tell Hesh to mostly fuck off. As said before, you are a NATO MBT with British characteristics, so you are basically the anti-Leopard. You are slower than Eastern European lorry drivers on the M25, so you do not attempt to rush to cap points, or think you are these annoying as fuck Swedish premiums being spammed. The Chieftain has bad handling as well as straight line speed, so you must stay at range, and not get caught with your pants down on slopes or tricky terrain, but do this to other tanks. You use your excellent stabilized 120mm to distill pure unionism into enemy tanks. For the Mark III you will generally go through everything you face, but aiming for the driver and gunner is essential, as APDS is as lazy as the average benefits mum with 8 kids, and doesn't like spamming. The Mark 10 meanwhile has its premium sausage which smells ammo racks like Londoners smell poverty and smog daily. So you aim for these as well as the turret and center mass. This tank does come equipped with the standard manliness option, and as your armor is good, this is viable. However, it's not invincible, and has weak spots to be abused, and it's more of a crutch to fall back on if you have gun dysfunction, so do not be an idiot. Instead angle slightly to increase protection. Shake the turret and hide the lower plate where possible, and don't engage at complete close range especially with speedy boys, as they'll run rings around you like Liverpool this season. LMAO get cancelled lol, no Premier League for you. Anyway, if nothing else you must sit behind ridge lines and show the enemy your strong turret while showing those dastardly Europeans where to stick it. Now a few words on playing the Marksman. Basically, if you don't know how to play SBAAs by this point, you are about as clever as every political party's leadership, but I will still cover the basics for those with room temperature IQ. The Marksman system combines two Swiss 35mm cannons with a Marconi Series 400 radar which has both search and track modes. In idiot terms, this means that the Chiefy can detect incoming planes before they butt fuck you, and lock onto them with a marker for where to aim the guns. When doing so, it is important to remember shell drop, and that the zoom is quite strong. So don't bother shooting more than a kilometer away, unless they're obese Russian bombers, or coming at you in a straight line, and especially if they are both. Unfortunately, while writing this, I thought that the entire thing could be reloaded quickly, but this is incorrect, as only the second little clip will load like the British public low toilet roll into their trolleys, so be careful as you don't have much ammo, but do have long reload times. Remember to stay in a relatively open spot with cover, so your radar can help you, and so you can hide from literally everything on the enemy team. Finally, if you feel like being manly in this is possible but not really advised, as it only has around 120mm of pen, looks like the average footy fan, has wide as fuck guns, and is not very maneuverable. If you really insist, aim for side armor on MBTs, and fuck them up, but don't come crying back to me if it doesn't work. Now you hopefully won't die immediately. What upgrades do you choose? For both tanks, first take mental health counseling to help with the stock grind, followed by parts and FPE, because Leyland are too busy destroying the entire British car industry. For the Mark 3, take adjustment of fire to U-turn faster than British colonial policy after the war, followed by lowering the tobacco tax, sick night sights bruv and elevation mechanism to salute Her Majesty, and finally the laser rangefinder to hit stuff better than the L85 ever could. Since Gaijin is mentally challenged, you will have a different order for the Mark 10, namely going for night vision still without thermals to make you regret going up the British tree. Then a trip to your local butchers and the vape shop, once again followed by recruiting a 15-year-old with a laser peg. Finally, for the Marksman you must research all of the Tesco basics sausage rolls up to the super hardened cocktail sausages, then the turret upgrades, so you don't get mugged off by AS-20 Nords, and finally some more wacky backy. After all these, you may do whatever the fuck you please. We will now discuss what to teach your crew on the Salisbury plane, starting with your lazy as fuck driver. He must learn to actually use the gearbox or the entire engine will be screwed. Then he must learn to repair the damn thing himself, and stay alive long enough to do so. For the gunner, he must know how to point his big Nerf gun at communists and range finding, since the ranging gun doesn't sync up to Hesh, even though it did in real life. Then vitality to free up ventilators for the NHS and agility. If a comrade doesn't make it, your commander must be given his cane to whip these public schoolboys into shape, and basically everything else for when some bastard pens your glorious angled armor, and your loader needs to get all 3 pieces of ammunition in the right order or faces T rations being cut down. Finally, the Marksman doesn't need range finding, since pilots are brain dead more and to want to recreate 9/11, and instead you want to prioritize keen vision for all crewmen, as well as making sure your canvas of a turret is painted just right. If you have followed all these simple steps, you will now know how to play the Chieftain Mark 3, 5, 10 and Marksman. Now don't research the Mark 5, go out there and make Dresden look like fucking child's play.
I will find you. And I will kill you.
Uh-oh, retard alert!